Marshal Michel Ney rose from humble origins to command armies across Europe, winning glory at Elchingen, enduring catastrophe in Russia, and falling from grace at Waterloo. His courage was legendary, his choices divisive. This is the story of the man whom Napoleon once called the bravest of the brave. The snow swallowed their footsteps. Behind them, the ruins of Smolensk smoldered. Ahead, only frost-bitten miles of Russian wilderness. At the rear of Napoleon's shattered army rode one man, rifle in hand, boots cracking through ice, eyes unwavering. His name was Michel Ney. From the blood-slick fields of Germany to the burning villages of Spain, from the frozen rivers of Russia to the mud of Waterloo, Michel Ney carved his name into history. He led charges that shattered armies, and others that shattered his own. They called him many things, but one name outlasted them all: the bravest of the brave. When November 1812 closed its iron grip on the retreat from Smolensk, the Russian general Milo Radovich outflanked the battered French rearguard and demanded their surrender. A Russian officer approached under a flag of truce. Ney refused, declaring that a Marshal of France would neither surrender nor parley under enemy fire. Instead, he seized the moment, capturing the stunned envoy before launching a furious counterattack. Ney broke through enemy lines and disappeared into the forest with his remaining men. For 2 days, no word came. By November 20th, at Orsha, a whisper reached Napoleon. Ney was alive, battered, but still fighting. The emperor is said to have smiled and remarked, "The army of France is full of brave men, but Michel Ney is truly the bravest of the brave." The next day, Ney rejoined Napoleon, commanding the rearguard to the very end. On December 15th, he crossed the Niemen River, the last French soldier to leave Russian soil. In March 1813, Napoleon bestowed upon him the title Prince of Moscow. But before all that, before the snow and the gunpowder, before the titles and the scars, Ney was a clerk's son from the border town of Waterloo. Restless behind a desk, Ney enlisted in the cavalry in 1787, quickly earning a reputation for daring charges and unshakable discipline. When the revolution exploded across France, Ney found himself under the command of Generals Jourdan and Kléber, leading a company of troops against Austrian forces. His valor at the Battle of Fleurus caught the attention of senior commanders. After a wound at Mainz and a short recovery in his hometown, Ney returned to the front lines hungry for action. Opportunity and chaos came hand in hand. In 1796, after capturing Forchheim, Ney was promoted to brigadier general at the age of 27. Yet victory was fleeting. Jourdan's campaign faltered, and Ney was captured at Neuwied. Released after Napoleon's preliminary peace agreement, he returned to find a Europe still ablaze. War reignited by 1798. Ney helped Kléber's vanguard commander, Bernadotte, seize Mannheim and earn promotion to general of division. But France's fortunes crumbled elsewhere. Russia's sweeping victories in Italy nearly shattered the Republic, until General Massena's stand at Zurich and Napoleon's return turned the tide. In 1800, while Napoleon campaigned in Italy, Ney fought under General Moreau at Hohenlinden, hammering Austria back toward peace. Even before Ney fought under Napoleon directly, destiny drew him closer. In 1804, Ney married Aglaé Aguillet, a protégé of Napoleon's wife, Josephine Bonaparte. That same year, Ney was named Marshal of the Empire and took command of the 6th Corps. At Elchingen, he crushed the Austrian vanguard, helping trap Austrian General Mack's forces at Ulm. In 1806 and 07, Ney further carved out his legend. At the Battle of Jena, he led daring attacks that pierced the Prussian center. At Eylau, he arrived on the second day, forcing the Russians into a blood-stained retreat. Standing amid the carnage, he said, "What a massacre," and without result. In June, at Friedland, Ney spearheaded the decisive blow against General Benningsen's Russian army, forcing Prussia and Russia to the table at Tilsit. But triumph on the grand fields of Europe would prove far easier than the grinding, brutal warfare that awakened Ney on the Iberian Peninsula. In Spain, the rules were different. Glory faded into a mire of ambushes, betrayals, and endless revolt. And for the first time, Ney found himself fighting an enemy that refused to give up. Spain was burning. Cities rebelled. Armies crumbled. Into this chaos rode Michel Ney, dispatched to pacify a land that refused to kneel. When Napoleon returned to France to confront Austria, Ney stayed behind. He continued the campaign, but clashed bitterly with fellow marshals. Assigned to General Massena's army of Portugal in 1810, Ney was tasked with capturing Ciudad Rodrigo, one of the two gates into Portugal. Their invasion stalled against Wellington's defensive lines of Torres Vedras. After Massena's second failed attempt to break through, Ney commanded the retreat, skillfully repelling British attacks at Pombal and Redinha. Ney's insubordination toward Massena cost him. Ney was recalled to France, his pride bruised but his defiance unbowed. And there, he found an empire straining under its own ambition. The victories of Austerlitz and Friedland had faded into memory. New fronts opened faster than old wounds could heal. And so, when Napoleon called once more, this time for an eastward march, Ney answered. New glories and even darker tragedies awaited across the endless plains of Russia. In 1812, Ney led the Third Corps in the Grand Invasion. At Borodino, he helped break through the Russian lines towards Moscow. But the city's burning ruins offered no victory, only starvation and despair. Through the blizzards and the blood, Ney's rearguard fought like wolves, buying time for what little remained of the French army. In 1813, Ney returned to Germany. At Lutzen and Bautzen, he fought bravely, though a misunderstood order at Bautzen allowed the enemy to escape. That summer, Austria joined the coalition. Ney helped secure a victory at Dresden, but met defeat at Dennewitz against his former comrade, Bernadotte, who had become the new Crown Prince of Sweden. At Leipzig, the Battle of the Nations, Ney defended the northern sector as Napoleon's empire unraveled. Victory slipped further and further away. In 1814, Ney fought alongside Napoleon as the Allies pressed into France. Though they won battles, the war was lost. The Allies closed on Paris, and Ney realized that continued resistance was hopeless. He placed himself at the head of disgruntled marshals who demanded Napoleon's unconditional abdication, a betrayal born not of disloyalty, but of exhaustion and pragmatism. The Bourbon monarchy restored Ney to favor. He was appointed commander of the cavalry and made a member of the prestigious Chamber of Peers. Yet, the aristocracy's scorn toward Ney's beloved wife Aglaé cut deeper than any battlefield wound. In the glittering salons of Paris, Ney was reminded daily that he remained an outsider to the old order he had fought to replace. When news broke that Napoleon had escaped Elba and landed in France, Ney swore an oath to King Louis XVIII to bring the usurper back in an iron cage. The boast was meant to reassure, but the king found it unbecoming of a marshal. Marching south to confront Napoleon, Ney faced an army where every cheer, every salute spoke not of loyalty to the king, but of devotion to their exiled emperor. Torn between duty and memory, Ney made his choice. On March 14, 1815, he pledged himself once again to Napoleon, allowing the emperor to reclaim Paris without firing a shot. Suspicion lingered. Napoleon welcomed Ney back, but kept him waiting. Only on June 11th did orders arrive. Ney was given command of 40,000 men to strike north into Belgium. By June 16th, at Quatre Bras, confusion and conflicting orders plagued the battlefield. Ney fought Wellington to a bloody standstill, but failed to seize the crossroads before reinforcements arrived, allowing the British to withdraw and regroup. 2 days later, at Waterloo, Ney unleashed repeated cavalry charges against Wellington's squares, sabers flashing, hooves pounding the muddy fields. Lacking proper infantry or artillery support, the attacks faltered again and again. Ney's horse was shot from under him, then another and another. He mounted a fourth steed and charged once more, refusing to yield. Late in the day, Ney captured La Haye-Sainte, briefly breaching Wellington's center, but it was too late. Prussian troops had arrived in force, smashing into Napoleon's right flank. Even the commitment of the Imperial Guard, led by Ney himself, could not save the French army. Ney, his face blackened with gunpowder, fought on foot with a broken sword, rallying the remnants. His defiance became legend, but courage alone could not change destiny. Napoleon's final gamble had failed. After Waterloo, Ney fled. He was captured, tried for treason, and sentenced by the Chamber of Peers. On December 7, 1815, Michel Ney faced the firing squad. He refused the blindfold. He gave the order to fire. Michel Ney, the bravest of the brave, died standing. His body still, his honor divided, his legacy uncertain. He had served 2 regimes, defied death on 100 battlefields, and stood alone when others fled. To some, he was a traitor. To others, a hero to the end. And after that final shot, one truth remained. Michel Ney had lived and died as a soldier of France. His story, like the empire he fought for, slipped into legend. Yet across battlefields and borders, the name Ney still echoes, a reminder of a man who never stopped fighting, even when all seemed lost.